How could you do this? Dr. Wondertainment said, lower lip trembling in rage. To your own father! Working with those SCP Foundation dogs! Sorry, Dad, said Mr. Fish, his thick Boston accent quavering out beyond his fishy lack of lips. He was holding a handgun, spray-painted purple and covered in yellow rhinestones. It's the way it's gotta be. But Dr. Wondertainment wasn't having that. His offended sneer devolved into a monstrous snarl, and he pressed a button on top of his cane. Section by section, the outer casing rose up, revealing the glimmering purple sword beneath. To Mr. Fish's surprise, the doctor lifted up the blade with a swift flick of his wrist, assuming a fighting stance. As if to answer a question that wasn't asked, he said, Official Dr. Wondertainment cane sword, one of our best-selling products. The children love it. He gave a baleful cry and lunged for the fish-headed anomaly. How could this have happened? One of Dr. Wondertainment's own creations, one of the iconic Little Misters line, working against him, perhaps even plotting his death. It's a wild story, and it all began in an Irish pub near the Boston docks, where a certain Mr. Fish was at least living up to his name in his ability to drink. Surrounded by surly Boston dock workers, Mr. Fish, in his finely tailored black suit with his bright orange goldfish head, knocked back a third tankard, pouring the golden liquid down his fishy gullet. Nobody asked any questions. You see types like him in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, folks with an Innsmouth look. Most people just assume their great-great-grandma must have had a wild night with Dagon and forgot her morning after pill. It's not the kind of thing that's really all that polite to ask about. But Mr. Fish drew attention to himself in his own way. One of the two TVs in the bar was playing a Celtics game, a game that Mr. Fish had a not inconsiderable part of his latest pay packet riding on with a local bookie, and the seas were letting him down. He yelled at the screen, shaking his human fist, until a pair of salty sea dogs trudged over to tell him to shut his trap, so the rest of them could relax. With typical Bostonian warmth and good humor, he responded by smashing his latest glass over the side of their heads. In return, they knocked several shades of caca out of Mr. Fish. The bartender, who pulled out a shotgun from under the bar and racked a round into the chamber to stop the fight, called the cops on him. Said cops, radioing in that the perp had an abnormally large head of a goldfish, got him transferred over to the SCP Foundation. Given the Lovecraftian history of Boston, the Foundation had multiple agents embedded in Boston PD, with an eye towards any anomalies eldritch or aquatic in nature. By the time Mr. Fish had sobered up, he was sitting in a chair across from a stern-faced Foundation researcher, looking at him down the bridge of his nose. This was Dr. Baker, and according to him, Mr. Fish's new name was SCP-527. Baker said, "Thank you for your cooperation thus far, SCP-527. We're just using this interview as a way to gauge any potential anomalous behavior we might not expect." "All right," Mr. Fish replied. "To begin, are you capable of breathing underwater?" "No." "Are you capable of communicating with other fish or with other sea-based life forms?" "No." Dr. Baker took notes on his clipboard. "I see," he said. "When did you first discover your condition? Were you by any chance attacked or bitten by a fish you didn't recognize, or experience an encounter with a sea-based deity of some kind?" These questions were starting to irritate Mr. Fish, especially as he was still recovering from his combination hangover and fight headache. "No," Mr. Fish repeated. Well then. You've been like this since birth?" "Yep." "I am all right. Do you know of any other anomalous traits you might exhibit?" Mr. Fish sighed and said, "Sure don't. Like I told the other guy, this is all it is. You're looking at it. Lie, stripes, hot sweetie, they got all the good stuffs. I'm just a guy with a fish head." Dr. Baker, seemingly rather disappointed and yet relieved with an outcome like this, "Do you have any idea why your creator might have fashioned you in this way?" All Mr. Fish could do was shrug. What you saw with him truly was what you got. But in a way, this made him the most predictable of the little misters that they had in containment. And given that he'd been cursed with such a dumb, anomalous ability, and yet had an awareness of the other little misters, could make him a unique asset to the Foundation in their quest against one of the most enduring groups of interest, the enigmatic, anomalous toymaker, Dr. Wondertainment. And that was exactly how the deal was struck. Dr. Baker, after speaking with the administration, decided to offer Mr. Fish a deal. They would release him and make it seem as though he escaped from Foundation containment so that he could return to Dr. Wondertainment. From there, he would be their man on the inside, helping them take down Dr. Wondertainment's sprawling organization from within. Once the mission was completed successfully, they would give him the best anomalous treatment that money could buy to reshape his body and give him a real human head. How could Mr. Fish possibly say no to an offer like that? They staged a containment breach a week after that, allowing Mr. Fish to break free from the facility and run out into the nearby desert, where the arid winds admittedly felt terrible on his scales. He walked for miles in the night, knowing that if he was given too easy a ride, then Dr. Wondertainment might just smell something fishy. Mr. Fish reached a nearby town the next day and made his way to the nearest toy store. There, he approached the clerk and said the words, "When your world is down and you're needing escape, know in your head is a wonderful place." With that, the clerk nodded and opened the door to the toy store's stockroom. Except if you looked closely, you'd see that the air in the doorway was shimmering slightly, a telltale sign that a portal is at play. Mr. Fish took a deep breath. There would be no coming back from this if he failed, and stepped across the threshold. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in the Technicolor wonderland of one of Dr. Wondertainment's anomalous toy factories. It was only moments later that the doctor himself sauntered in, his cane tapping against the ground with every step, twirling his mustache with his free hand. "Well, well, well, the prodigal son returns," Dr. Wondertainment said. "I hope you take no offense to this, my boy, but of all the ones I thought would be able to escape one of those damn Foundation lockboxes, I never expected that it would be you." Mr. Fish didn't take offense, not really, especially given that he hadn't actually escaped the base on his own. "Still," Dr. Wondertainment said, "it is wonderful to have you back. We have much work to do, and many hands do have the power to make that work an awful lot lighter." And so began Mr. Fish's work undercover for the SCP Foundation, appearing loyal to his creator while working to undermine him. He was immediately put to work on the factory floor, putting together anomalous toys on conveyor belts. In accordance with the SCP Foundation's wishes, he gathered up schematics of the differing toys and discreetly sent them back to his Foundation handlers, all while sabotaging or delaying production in any way he could, breaking machines, putting the wrong parts into anomalous toys, giving his subordinates bad instructions. When the time came to lay the blame at someone's feet, Mr. Fish blamed another worker who was actually one of the more competent and committed members of the team. Dr. Wondertainment strapped him to a giant firework and shot him up into the sky, causing a spectacular explosion that incinerated the man in the process. Mr. Fish rose through the ranks after that, becoming part of the brainstorming team for new products. This was perfect for his newfound job as a Foundation mole, as it allowed him to send them the details of all upcoming design projects in order for them to develop proper countermeasures in advance. They'd have containment methods devised for anomalies before those anomalies were even made. On the instruction of the Foundation, Mr. Fish requested a job change to the logistics department of the company. This allowed him to view all the files on where upcoming shipments of anomalous toys were being sent, letting him, in turn, tip off the Foundation about both the locations where the toys were being sent and the nature of some of Dr. Wondertainment's most valuable shipping routes. It resulted in some of the most successful Foundation sting operations on record, taking tens of thousands of anomalous toys off the market. Of course, Mr. Fish was never caught. With the help from the Foundation, he always found another, inevitably more loyal employee to blame his treachery on, who Dr. Wondertainment, in a rage, would always whimsically annihilate before they could share their side of the story. And every time, Mr. Fish got a little closer to Dr. Wondertainment himself. After all, there was nobody that Wondertainment would trust more than one of his very own creations. From the Foundation's perspective, Mr. Fish went on from one of the most useless little misters to their most valuable asset on the inside. But the problem was, he wasn't the only inside man operating out there. You see, the Foundation is one of the most powerful spying organizations in the world. They have eyes everywhere. Between AI constructs and web crawlers studying every nook and cranny of the internet, and embedded field agents and paid-off informants in every layer of government, every organization, every group of interest. But no system is watertight, and sometimes the apparent omniscience of the Foundation can blind it to the presence of spies in its own midst. They never imagined that an enemy as whimsically devious as Dr. Wondertainment would have a spy of his own hidden in their midst. But that was very much the case of Wally Watley, one of the good doctor's minions hidden in the Foundation's administrative department. With all the recent hardships that the Foundation had been facing, Dr. Wondertainment had put a great deal of pressure on Wally to find out why the Foundation had gotten so lucky, and why so many of his own employees had been failing him. He knew that it had to be those killjoys at the Foundation interfering. He just needed to discover the nature of that interference before he could do anything about it. And that's when Wally Watley, at a late night pouring through the archives, discovered some correspondence between the Foundation and one of their anomalous contacts. Someone embedded in the heart of Dr. Wondertainment's operation, feeding information to his greatest rivals, a bona fide double agent. Wally delivered this information to Dr. Wondertainment, though he had no way of knowing who the Foundation mole actually was. Still, the doc felt disrespected, and that made him furious. Who dared stand in the way of his noble goal, bringing joy to the children of the world? It was perverse. It was evil. He would find whoever did this, and he would make them suffer in all the worst ways his considerable imagination could fathom. There was just the matter of catching the rat first. And so began the great purge of the Wondertainment organization. Toy soldiers with real functioning rifles marched through the halls, interrogating anyone who seemed suspicious, and putting them to the immediate firing wall if they didn't have satisfactory answers. Toy Spitfires sailed through the air, unleashing tiny machine gun fire and barrages of missiles on anyone who dared to run. The higher-ranking workers at the company were told to report directly to Dr. Wondertainment's office, one by one, for interrogation with the man himself, and he had ways of making them talk. If someone struck Dr. Wondertainment as untrustworthy, he'd shake their hand with a joy buzzer that reduced them to a pile of ash on the ground. He'd release snapping clockwork dentures that would devour them alive. Some he'd even use his patented Dr. Wondertainment Chinese finger trap, which slowly sucks in your entire body, starting with your finger, and traps you in the hell dimension of eternal torment. As the Wondertainment purge claimed more and more victims, Mr. Fish found himself growing increasingly nervous. He knew he wasn't the kind of guy who could keep his cool under torture. Would Dr. Wondertainment even resort to something like that? The scariest part was that truly anything felt possible now, and the Foundation seemingly had no incentive to protect Mr. Fish beyond his usefulness as an asset to their plans. This hard-working Boston Goldfish man needed to act, or risk being acted upon. That's why he took one of Dr. Wondertainment Bedazzlegats from the storage room and decided that it was a simple matter of self-preservation. He needed to kill his creator before his creator had a chance to kill him. It really was as simple as that when all was said and done. He stormed into Dr. Wondertainment's office and pointed the gun in his face, which brings us full circle to where we were at the start of this video. Dr. Wondertainment, always having a flair for the dramatic, drew his cane sword and began a relentless assault against his own creation.
I made you, you ungrateful little fish!
He said with another swing.
And I can unmake you with far less effort!
Mr. Fish tried firing his weapon, but every bullet seemed to miss, Dr. Wondertainment dodging around them like living mist. With every strike, he got closer to leaving Mr. Fish sleeping with the fishes. One slash with the blade rendered a wound across the little mister's chest, collapsing him to the ground.
Always a terrible shame,
Dr. Wondertainment said, raising his weapon,
to break a beloved toy.
Before he could bring it down, sniper fire shattered through the window. Wondertainment scattered as Foundation operatives repelled into the factory to extract Mr. Fish, having narrowly avoided a gruesome death. It seemed that working for the SCP Foundation really did have its perks. Now go check out SCP-2935 O-Death and more epic SCP stories you can't miss. And SCP-682 Ways SCP Foundation Tried to Kill Hard to Destroy Reptile for more.